if you're new, grab your remote. If you've been here before, you know what we're doing next. But if you're new, grab your remote. Put that thumb on the play button, but don't press it yet because we're going to do that at the same time on the count of 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Are we back in New York?
Yeah, I was going to say this looks like New York, thankfully.
Were you not a fan of towers?
No, I wasn't. I got to be honest. Like, the more I thought about it, the more I got away from that episode, the more I didn't like it.
Isn't everything pink?
Did I miss that? In the last episode, did she like let her have her apartment while she was gone?
No, she just kind of said it at the beginning of the letter, like that she thinks if Harry's goons can't find her, that they'll leave her, they'll forget about her.
Oh, got it. Okay. So she got that letter from her between last episode and now?
It looked like it was like on the nightstand. Yeah, I don't think we didn't know last episode that Susie was doing this.
She plays piano.
She's crying. That t-shirt she's wearing, that's a cartoon character t-shirt. Where have I seen that t-shirt?
Freddy Cougar.
Oh, well, there's that as well. Yeah. Thank you.
I just don't get where she got those letters from. Were they sent to her from Paris? Or they were left?
Look like it.
Mitch's dad.
Oh.
No, they're from Midge. Instructions from Midge about how to live.
Okay, so Midge is back. So
Midge
she
is
left her that letter. I got it.
Can you give me a timestamp? I'm sorry, I ended up on episode 2. I don't know how I did that.
We're on episode 2, honey.
We're on episode 2.
Susie is currently in a bathtub.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, season 2, episode
sorry.
2 shot.
I was on episode 1. I apologize. I'm sorry.
We're at 3:32 right now, or
Okay,
3:35.
All right, thank you. I'll be quiet now.
That looks like a good amount of bubbles to me. Yeah, it needs to like cover you. That's like how it's supposed to be.
Her little splashes with her hands.
picture's giving me like Emily vibes. Like, like you should have known all these things.
Biting my tongue here like it's a stick.
How does she know that nobody uses Rose's pink soap?
I mean, I'm sure everyone knows there's pink soap in the bathroom and no one.
So that's like a thing, huh? That the pink soap is really just like a decorative thing.
Oh,
Yes,
my
some people
grandparents
do
had
that.
soap you didn't touch.
Yep, mine too.
Got it.
Yup, mine too.
Got it. Okay, that's funny.
And it would get dust on it and you had to just dust it off.
Exactly.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, that is
I
funny.
can verify that. Yeah. I think so.
This whole conversation about wanting to be famous, I feel like, is a very important theme in the show.
Also interesting that she really wants to be famous, but hasn't figured out how to tell anyone in her life.
Yeah,
And,
totally.
Like she hasn't been able to reconcile those things.
Yeah, it's really, you're right. It's so important really to deal with their conflict. It's good.
Is Abe speaking French?
Abe is French.
He looks like he's really assimilated to this.
So we're still in Paris.
Well, they're
Okay,
getting
this
along.
is a change.
They are absolutely delightful in Paris. I don't want Emily's Paris, but the Weissman's Paris, yeah.
I'm on the same page as you, Dave. I love the Weissmans in Paris.
Isn't he supposed to be working at his new job at that place that he always wanted?
Bell
No, he
Labs,
just-
yeah, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, shout out to Madeline.
Just had the same thought, Dave.
I feel like somewhere in between the hiatus for season 1 and 2, they realized that they wanted to spend way more time on Rose's character. That maybe season 1 was a little miss in terms of the amount that they gave Rose.
I felt that in the finale when she was talking to Miriam in the closet, and she was like, you know, she kind of, you could see it on her face, where she had that realization, like, I don't know you, and I don't have a life.
It's just a very big turn for the character, and just in terms of how the use of the character early in the series, in the first season, she really feels way more like just a side character, and now she feels like suddenly one of the real leads of the show, and it feels like it happened very quickly. I'm not critiquing that. It's just an interesting thing. It seems that they must have really fallen in love with the actress and with the character.
This is a very interesting turnaround from episode 1. This seemed to happen very quickly, that he took this new attitude of accepting her and Paris.
Well, he said
Totally,
he wasn't
yeah.
gonna leave without her. He was gonna stay till
And they had the time to do it. I mean, it's a full season. You have time to play, to give life to these characters.
I'm really hoping it's not a case of Abe kind of playing along with her to get back in her good books, only to kind of demand that she come back to her old life.
That
He
would be
seemed to
very
enjoy sitting there
manipulative.
arguing with the guys.
I like this dynamic since Sonny Boy is coming in out of, smart guy corporate world.
Yeah, they weren't that concerned about chemicals and smoking and stuff until probably like the 80s.
Yeah, but use of time study. Oh, very big.
He mentioned the shirtwaist fire though.
Oh, he brought his new secretary with him.
Yeah, he really liked her.
And I cleaned this.
So their money is all messed up, basically, is what we're getting.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel like maybe they don't have all the money they think they do. Uh-oh.
Oh yeah, that's never a good word.
I saw that. I kind of saw that coming.
It's just so nostalgic for Chicago.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
At least she's really accepted it.
I really like that secretary.
Also, a very clear concerted effort to make Joel's character even more likable.
Yeah. Yeah. Fire's
Yes,
getting some back.
more likable.
You sound disappointed, Hunter.
Yeah. A little.
I call it the Jamie Lannister effect.
Oh.
He barely grew on me, so that fits.
I said that specifically for you, not assuming that he did grow on you, but all right, fair enough.
So Susie has basically adopted these kids.
I like that Zelda is putting food in there specifically for her.
Yes. I love these two in Paris. I really love this.
Can you stand it? Yeah.
But I had the same question that Hunter has, which is like, what's going on? He got a job. He's got that big job. What's he doing here?
And it was his dream job. Like, I can understand him taking time off from being a professor. He probably has tenure, but he was so excited about the other one.
Yeah, the NASA job or the something job.
It was Bell Labs.
Yeah,
Bell
Bell
Labs.
Labs.
Yeah.
I just have a really terrible feeling that he's kind of doing all of this, playing the role and enjoying himself, but it's going to turn around
Well,
to be
it's
him
gotta be
saying,
something
hey, we've
because otherwise
it.
it's just
let's leave.
it's got to be something because otherwise it's just like there's not really much to it except we're just enjoying the fact that Abe and Rose are together, which I guess that's enjoyable. Doesn't really move the story much. Like we need a reversal here, I guess is what I'm saying. We need a reversal. This is super sweet. Like so sweet that we probably need a really big, awful reversal right now.
I think she sees it as a lifestyle change and he's treating it as a vacation.
I like that. That's a good theory.
Yeah, maybe it's only been a week. Maybe like he has his vacation times. Maybe it hasn't been very long either.
Look what you can do with a budget. Glorious.
That's a cool shot. Isn't that Disney music?
What do you mean?
Disney music?
I swear to God, I'm sorry, that just like immediately flashed me back.
It's
to a Disney
Louis,
movie.
it's
That
Louis
is-
Armstrong.
That's Louis
I
Armstrong.
know, but I'm
Yeah.
trying to think. Sorry, I phrased that in a really funny way, but ignore me.
Well, it's been used in a lot of things, but
Yeah.
it was on the charts in the mid-60s.
I have it in a wind-up box for my baby.
I think it was the last thing we put on the chart.
I'm looking forward to these two becoming really good friends. I feel like by the end of this series completely, they're gonna be buds.
I like that coat.
Me too.
After the hats, you need to start doing the coats.
Oh, is this where the hat
Definitely.
thing came from? I hope his jacket gets paint on it.
They do know how to end the scene in this thing. That stuff's great.
We're gonna have to talk about that scene at the end.
But moment of appreciation for the deep maroon hat glove combo, the pink coat, and the pink carpet in that scene was all very beautifully done.
Uh-huh.
Here we go.
Ooh, it's pretty.
My first trip to Paris, I Airbnb'd in an amazing place like this. It's like looked just like this and had that elevator, the same kind of elevator. It's amazing.
Someday I hope to use that line, John. My first trip to Paris.
I
No,
have a
admiration-
feeling
admiration
this
for
is
you.
where we're gonna get a reverse.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it.
Oh, there it is, Lee. I
Yep.
think you might be right.
I knew as soon as she got out of that elevator. There it is.
This shot's really beautiful.
It's a great shot.
Yeah.
Nice, Lee. You nailed it.
Someone get me in a writer's room immediately. Oh, he even said
I was
vacation.
just thinking the same. I was like, oh man, Lee.
We had the same thoughts about these characters, but I couldn't agree with you because I'd seen the show before. But when I first watched it, I thought that same thing. It's crazy
I'm sorry.
that Abe would want to live.
Did you say shadow proof? I'm shadow proof.
Chatter.
Shatter.
Shatterproof. I like shadowproof though, also. Yeah, like, person
Yeah.
who's like sort of living in the shadows of everybody else. And here she's shadowproof. So I'm glad they didn't use it because I'm gonna use it.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay, they're good.
Oi, oi, oi.
Have you done other episodes of the show?
Oh,
I mean,
smack them, smack them. But
I mean, who was she? Joan Rivers and who?
Ugh. Disgusting.
Little Canadian joke for our Canadian members.
Oh my God, the MC is Christopher Fitzgerald, who is in Waitress on Broadway. He is an incredible, hilarious actor.
Is she gonna get?
I have a
bumped
feeling
repeatedly?
it's going to be getting worse and worse until
Yeah.
finally she's the last person going up.
the comedian reminds me of Bryan Cranston in face. Well, the first guy, not this guy.
Yes.
I have a feeling she won't go on.
Yeah, I think they're gonna keep bumping her until they quote unquote run out of time. Ooh, a hat.
It's a good hat.
And another bump. She's gonna bomb because she's gonna go on.
I have a feeling she may not even go up.
Oh. Oh no.
If this place goes up in flames because he's drunk and smoking.
Oh, it's the loan sharks.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Or maybe not.
I love this scene. I love that scene.
Didn't it?
I think she's at position 10 back then.
That was prime physical
That was a
comedy.
good ball.
That was so good.
Oh no.
Knew it.
We were right.
She needs to just leave. How do you leave a favorite like this? Or like follow a favorite like
killing me. I told my folks that I think it's bedtime when Jackie Vernon showed up on XL.
I guess she can't leave because that would give her a bad reputation for leaving at the last minute, but
Oh, they're both coming home?
that's unexpected.
Oh my God.
At least it's black and you can't really tell.
I don't think those stage lights are gonna help much.
Oh yeah, oh no.
Jeez.
It's the worst. Yeah.
We were wrong. She got on stage. Oh.
Yeah, I could kind of feel that there was going to be a switch there when she went on. It was like they really just piled on the all of the challenges.
Use the anger. Yeah. This is a road.
Oh, good.
That was sweet.
I like that he said before I decide never to book you up. He wants to book her again.
It's a win. Yeah.
I mean, you can't have a crowd laughing like that and completely cut someone off.
Totally.
She looks so sad.
Color her down.
I'm very sad about this.
I'm
Oh,
angry.
is she leaving Simone?
Yeah, I'm not sad, I'm angry.
Oh, no, Simone's going. Oh, no, he's not.
Oh, I hate this.
That's
Ooh,
good.
that's
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm looking forward to them getting back to New York. The doves. I wonder if they did that with the pigeons.
And the world
Oh,
is
we did
split
again.
back.
Transition again.
Yeah, that's a
I
cool
love that
transition.
transition.
That was cool, the bird shot. It threw a lot of stuff in there, didn't it?
I'm worried about the mom. What's her-
Rose, me too.
Rose.
Yeah, I'm worried about Rose.
Rose looks like she knows something.
She ain't by it, right?
Oh,
Look at
you
Dave
no.
finally making an effort.
Okay, he's trying. He's doing better.
Maybe they'll go back often.
Oh, Susie.
It's a cool cover. I mean, is that a cover? That's a cover, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's kind of.
yeah, it's a cover, but that's like a modern cover, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, all the end credits are more modern songs.
Right.
So, we're gonna get them back in New York.
I'm glad they're back in New York. The yeah, I don't know how I feel about the whole Paris thing, other than it feels like it's layered on top of the show for me. It's like layered on top of the story on I don't know. It felt like a
because no, I mean I agree with it because it gives those characters. Rose had a great arc, you know, that was just fantastic. I thought, and that's part of it. This is a whole season. You don't want to race too fast into what we have going on with the comic career. That's got to build. You know? So if it's killing time, well, okay. But that was a great arc out there for Rose.
I think I like the Paris stuff because it's just visually beautiful. I love the way they dress Paris. And yeah, like you said, Dave, it gives Rose a little bit of an arc. It kind of like wakes the character up in a way that we haven't seen before. And the other thing I like too, especially in this episode, is that you get to see Abe and Rose, and their existence and their relationship is completely separate from Midge. So you get to see the characters like how they truly are together without dealing with all of the drama around Midge.
I like the Paris stuff because we got to see Rose like, you know, doing her own element and kind of rediscovering herself. But now that they're back so quickly, this is only episode 2 of this season. It feels like they only wrote that just to go to Paris.
That's what,
because now
that's exactly what I was getting at. It felt just kind of like it felt like kind of stapled on, you know?
Yeah, and I would have liked to see that storyline with Rose in Paris longer and have more conflict with them, and then her come back later, you know, and have a resolution, because this just feels like he came back, they had a quote unquote vacation in his eyes. She reluctantly comes back, but now he's, you know, now he's scheduled dance classes and he's, you know, encouraging her to take the art class. So it's fine now, yay. But like, I would have liked to see more of that conflict between the two of them and have her grow even more and have her maybe stay there longer and then come back later.
I think that's actually that actually gets to sort of my issue with it, which is what I think Dave really likes. I actually don't love mini arcs in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Mini arcs feel weird to me in Maisel. They work for a show like Gilmore Girls, but for this, I feel like I want the story to weave much longer, and this just felt like it was its own small little thing that had its resolution in like 2 episodes.
Too quick for you. I
Yeah.
think this is sets up conflict between Rose and Abe later on.
I hope so.
Now,
Yeah.
she grows the way the daughter grows in some new area, some new doors open up for her. I think we've got something here.
Maybe so. I don't know. I mean, it felt very like it felt contained, you know, in regards to her, regards to Rose's arc. I'm trying to imagine how much more we grow from here, and it felt like very quick growth for it to happen in 2 episodes.
Yeah, there's something a little too what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I feel like if you're gonna go to Paris, go to Paris. Like, spend a lot more time to like, you know, stretch that storyline out. But if you just need a little mini arc for Rose, she could have gone to like New Jersey. Like, she could have gone anywhere. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it didn't have to be this giant you know, transcontinental situations. That's why I think it feels a little forced that they're in Paris, that it's like, oh, like obviously Paris. Well, no, like, not obviously Paris, you know, it just, but if she was going to go there and spend a ton of time there, like months and months, and, you know, I feel like she picks up these interests, like, you know, like the art stuff and like all that in like a matter of days, because she's not there for more than a couple of weeks. It, you know, like, she was there for 3 days when she already had a dog and all, you know, the apartment and all that stuff. So, you know, we can assume that Abe is there still on his like winter break before school starts, in like the semester break, right? So it's not a ton of time. And, you know, if she just needed to get away for a while, she could have gone somewhere much closer to home. You know, but on the other hand, I like that she goes to Paris because it wakes up all of these things, but I feel like she needs to spend more time there. It feels too quick.
She
And
did
I
go to
also
school there,
believe-
though, you guys. Remember, when she tells them about the apartments where she lived when she was going to school. So
Yeah.
it was like she was going
Yeah.
back to someplace that she had spent time before, that she had interests outside of her married life
Yeah.
before.
To
Only
use your
one
words,
reason
it
why-
does wake up things that were there earlier, right? Yeah.
But it's only more reason why that could have been turned into something much bigger.
That's what I'm saying.
You know,
Yeah.
it could have been a slower build to Paris. I mean, you know, even the way that they went to Paris. I mean, we all don't get me wrong, that Paris was gorgeous and really nice, but it felt like that was more of a motivation to put it into the story than the actual, you know, I don't know. It just felt like it felt like we want to do Paris. And that transition shot, which was also really beautiful and striking, also spoke to how quickly they wanted in and out. It was like flip, we're in, and flip, we're out, rather than this idea of, because there's a lot of juice there. She lived there, and I think had it actually unfolded a little bit slower and had taken up more of the season, I'd appreciate Paris a lot more. But it was just like, oh wait, where's Mama? In Paris? All right, let's get our bags. We're going to Paris. It felt a little bit like, the Brady Bunch specials where they like go to Hawaii or something like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, where's that tiki?
I would have liked to see, because we had all these beautiful shots of them spending time together. Especially what sticks to me the most from that was them sleeping in that same twin size bed together. So it would have been a really great thing to have her either stay there longer and have a whole like season character arc, or for her to come back and to show her walking into her bedroom, seeing those separate twin beds. That would have been a stark difference from what they just came from.
That would have been great.
And they haven't touched on that feeling. We get her smile and, oh, we're having Coco Bond and I'm going to help with dinner, but they haven't touched on her, how she felt walking back into this life and coming back into this big apartment that's immaculately dressed, and the two beds and this big, they didn't take that opportunity to stop and take a beat to show her disappointment or her reluctance at all coming back here.
Yeah.
And I think that's why
to really do the contrast and coming home, because she's saying at table, but to have her walking through the apartment.
Especially with the song that's playing, they had a really good opportunity to take that beat and show her, just have her face in all of these different rooms in contrast to that great montage we had of the two of them, and they didn't.
Also, like, you don't solve the problem of feeling invisible for many, many years by your husband and your daughter and your wife with one gesture from Abe saying, oh, I signed us up for classes. Like, you just don't solve that problem. And she's way too happy, with, oh, I'll do the cocoa bean. Like what? No, like, you're sort of ignoring the fact that you were you were so upset that you got on a flight to another continent without anyone really understanding that that's what you were doing. That's pretty desperate, and it's pretty, it's pretty severe. And now you're just like, oh, it's okay, he gets it now. And like, did you also notice the reversal in the scene where he's like, don't you listen to me? Like, didn't you hear? Like, this is why you're meeting me. Like, and it was like that, oh, remember when Abe didn't listen to Rose? Like,
Which is all the time.
Yeah, it was like a total rewrite of that scene where, he's like, she's like, didn't you hear me? I told you I'm going. And now it's like, didn't you hear me? Like, I told you you're meeting me at my office. Like, oh, you never listen. It's just so funny. Like, it doesn't match up.
Right. And then it has me asking, like, well, what did that conversation sound like before? Like, what did he say before that she was just staring off into space, that now what he's saying has her suddenly wanting to help cook and get super excited?
Mm-hmm. Again, with that great music, they could have had moments of that, like, kind of like Charlie Brown's mom just in the background, womp, 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 womp. They could have had, her sitting there not listening. And, and
he would have been like, what weren't you listening? And she's like, no, there was a montage playing, and the music was just so.
It was so.
I might be in the minority, but I'm not a big fan of montage, that kind of montage stuff. I mean, I get it's pretty, and that was like a really great opportunity to see Paris in all of its beauty and whatnot. But personally, I don't like getting my story like that.
I like getting it if later on they have a contrast to it, you know, like I'm saying, like if they had just used that to later on be like, but we're not here anymore, because it is a very glossy way of telling the story. But if you contrast it later with like a stark reality, then it kind of works for.
I'm sold. It's a great echo. And again, you're showing me instead of telling me, which is always cool.
Mm-hmm.
Showing me, you mean like through the montage showing?
Yeah, as opposed to verbalizing. Yeah, whenever you can
The opposite. I feel like montages
first.
do tell. I feel like montages do tell. That's kind of my problem with montages. My same problem with flashbacks. You know, I feel like getting that information of the blissful, you know, the bliss of their relationship there in Paris. I feel like it's like what's the word? My brain. I mean, it's just such an obvious like way of showing that.
I learn visually, but I prefer that kind of thing where the characters verbalizing their internal motivation. If they don't have to, if you can give me something, that'd be very long. And maybe the character, says something later.
You're right. It would be very long, and I think that's sort of what both Diana and I are getting at, is that you're forced to rely on montage when all you have is 2 episodes to sort of unfold what you're trying to say about all of this, you know.
It's also brief.
It was just too short. It was too short of time. So it's like, okay, well, we have to show this. We have to get this information across to the audience. Let's do a montage. I mean, I'm not saying that that's what they were thinking. I mean, obviously the montage is beautiful. I'm not going to take that away from it. But personally, I think I would prefer a New York or a Paris that did span most of the season, where we could get all of that information in the montage, that we could get it slowly through subtext and through the characters' interaction, so that like when Abe at the end is like, wait a second, I didn't realize that this is what you wanted for our life. I thought that it was just a vacation. I mean, then I think it would just like knock you over.
I'm not going to fight you too hard on it. I mean, actually, for me, the episode would have been perfect. We could have just done away with the Jackie Vernon part.
I think
I do want to
also
bring some. Oh, go ahead.
I was just real quick for the Abe and Rose stuff too. I mean, some of the way we're talking about it is like, oh, the arc happened in Paris, they're back, and now Abe's doing things and everything's solved. But I don't actually think that that's true. I mean, we're still only in episode 2 of the season. I think there's more interesting things they can do with all of this, and to see how they really do adjust back in New York and how everything works there. And I think that going to Paris and coming back so quickly, I think has like a couple like Amy things with it. Number one, it's that like this is the first time she's had like really big money to play with on a show. So I'm sure, John, like you said, like it feels like they went to Paris just because she wanted to go to Paris. And I think that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
And I think she came back because the show is about New York. Like staying in Paris the whole season could make a really interesting story arc. But I don't think, as much as she maybe wanted to like spend the money and go to Paris, she wants the show is supposed to be in New York. It's about the city as much as it's about the characters.
That makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, I do. It's hard for me to, because I want the show to be so much about what it's supposed to be about, while I'm like, okay, you know what, go to New York. You earned it. Like you knocked the first season out of the park, all of those awards. Go to New York if that's what you want to do. But a part of me is sort of like, yeah, but I kind of want you to keep doing the show, like the heart of what the show is, which is New York.
Yeah, I totally get it.
Let me do this. I got a couple of things about Midge. And I was asking earlier, have we reviewed any season 1 episodes before?
Yeah, we did this all in season 1 as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did. Yeah, we've done the entire first season, and we do the same thing. We watch the episode, and then we talk about 45 minutes.
Okay.
But we
Okay.
can certainly
Well,
revisit
No, I'm coming
anything
in
from season
with
1
an
that you want
apology.
to.
No, I'm coming in with an apology because I'm going to assume you did this. I had asked, she is Joan Rivers' hand. Was there an answer for that after viewing season 1?
Whether she was an inspiration.
Midge is a representation of Joan Rivers, I think.
Oh yeah,
Maybe somebody else.
talked.
Maybe somebody else.
Yeah, we
Did
talked
you-
a little
what
bit
did you
about.
guys-
There's actually some press on this that Amy has said that actually Midge is she's sort of an amalgamation of like several different characters, but that she's largely inspired by her own father. Amy's father was a comedian around this time, and so Amy has actually like a lot of stories of comedians and comedians in her father's life. So there's a variety of aspects to the Midge character that are inspired by her own father.
Okay.
But I also know that Joan Rivers is definitely in there as well, and somebody else.
I thought they were talking about Sophie Lennon was supposed to be Joan Rivers, a cross between Joan Rivers and Phyllis Diller and somebody else.
Oh, was that what it was?
That's what I remembered. I thought I read something like that, and I thought somebody was talking about that too.
Well, it's the material for me about the Joan Rivers thing. I mean, Midge is self-referential in the same way, where Phyllis would be a little more stock. I mean, yeah, they both got into the marriage stuff, but Joan Rivers was a little more topical, also, that kind of thing. But so right, the Sophie Lennon here.
Yeah, and it's Mom's Mabley too. So it's Sophie.
And Mom's.
Yeah, Phyllis Diller, Mom's Mabley, whereas like Joan Rivers
Yes.
definitely was more topical and Jewish and like coming at it from like that.
Yeah.
That more like entering. So there's a couple things going on in comedy as we've been shown by the show, is that we've got Sophie Lennon, who's like straight up doing a character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And playing it for laughs as a stand-up routine.
Like a Phyllis Diller.
Yeah. And then we've got like, but that is to compete in the boys club of stand-up comedy. And so we haven't totally been shown by the show. I mean, feel free to disagree with me, but I feel like the show hasn't totally shown us a full lineup of comedians that are all men, that where Midge has to actually compete for time. We've seen her compete for time just in general, right? Because she's a noob, but we haven't seen her, like, because we saw that with Joel in season 1 too, like, oh, I gotta fight for my time at like this at the open mic, right? So, but we haven't seen her really truly fight for time against men, against many men. We've seen her with like against Lenny Bruce in a way, like, oh, I gotta compete with that guy. But we haven't seen how tough this really is as a straight comic to get up there and do the exact same thing that they're doing. Not a Sophie Lennon that does something different, but like Joan Rivers did that. That's what we're, I think, talking about.
I think so. We'll get to, and even against Lenny Bruce, he was a friend. He was sympathetic. He shows up as helpful. Yeah. Oh, so second thing about the character is, and maybe this is discussed in the first year. Are there problems? I kind of have a problem. Rachel Brosnahan is not Jewish.
Yeah, there were one of our members on Discord actually posted an article about that, about and Sarah Silverman actually made a comment about that on her podcast. I don't have a big problem with it, but I'm not Jewish, so I can't really speak for how Jewish comedians or Jewish actors might feel about that. It certainly happens a lot in Hollywood, but I also think vice versa. I mean, there's certainly Jewish actors, big Jewish actors who have not played Jewish characters. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too deeply. I think that she's phenomenal on the show. So it's hard for me to want to dig too deep into that particular aspect of it, because I feel like it sort of takes away from such a phenomenal performance analyzing that. But again, I'm not Jewish, so I don't know how that might feel.
Well, also, I think there are just so many female comics right now who still don't get the same kind of play as men, who might also be feeling like, oh my God, she's not even played by a comic. You know what I mean?
Oh, like, right, yeah.
Because like Jenny Slate could have done this. You know what I mean? Like Sarah Silverman may be able to do. Like, you know, there's.
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, I have to imagine that was on her mind. Not just the Jewish aspect, but the comedian aspect. But you know, and that just gets back to the question of, like, you know, the art of acting. You know, is it you know, transforming who you are, creating this illusion of somebody who you're not, or is it more bringing who you are to the performance? And that's a big debate. You know, you know, there are some actors who, you know, are all about acting being a transformation of who you really are. And in that sense, you know, having somebody like Rachel Brosnan doing that, like, I think that like kind of highlights, you know, the peak of that style of acting, you know. But you know, there's also a school of thought that it's, you know, that acting is really about, you know, more about bringing who you are to the character in a more natural way. I mean, especially now you see it a lot more. There's a lot more characters out there in modern drama and comedy that are played by somebody who is exactly like that in real life, and their performances are incredible. But then you ask yourself, like, is it a performance though? I mean, they're really, that's who they are. But I don't know. I think that there's still a skill involved in bringing who you actually are to a role in that way. So
Go ahead. Sorry, you weren't finished.
Yeah, no, I was saying I don't know. I mean, I like, as an actor, like, for example, as me as an actor, you know, there was a period in my life where I actually believed that, like, you know, the height of acting was to transform, you know, and to be you know, to be somebody completely different. And then when you get on stage, you just, like, transform. I admired actors who did that, and didn't admire actors who were just, like, bringing who they were and were exactly like them in real life to the stage, even if they were supernatural and, you know, and you know, and just totally breathed life into that character in a, you know, in a way that was utterly believable. I still kind of respected and was more into these, like, character actors who just transformed, you know. And then at a certain point later, you know, I'd say, like, in my like 30s or so. I mean, that was more of how I thought, like, when I was in school and shortly after I graduated, you know, from acting conservatory. And then in my 30s, I actually started to develop an appreciation for the opposite and became really into actors who were, you know, very much who they were in real life, bringing that to the screen and just, you know, and then it became less about the character and it became more about the actor's understanding of the emotions and the emotional like journey of that particular character. And I wasn't quite so interested in like the affectations and the things that the actor needed to do to like make themselves look different. I was more interested in, do they understand what's going on internally in this character right now? And if the answer was yes, I was like, I love this performance.
I wonder if, you know, I mean, because this comes, I mean, obviously it's a thing, like Ryan Reynolds with Deadpool, and, you know, but this was also a topic when like Jennifer Lopez played Selena, you know, because she isn't Mexican American, and people were up in arms about that. I'm sorry about the background. But I kind of wonder if it's a bigger deal in this aspect, because we know Amy Sherman, when she does her scripts, there, you know, we've talked about this before, like you have the script, you do the script, then I don't think there's much ad lib to that. John, you can, you know, confirm that. I don't know,
Yeah, I mean,
but that's famously what it is. Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
she had the script, you do the dialogue, and you don't really venture much from it. Whereas in other places, an actor is freer to bring more of themselves to the character. So I don't know if that would matter.
What's interesting is that I actually think that I don't know for sure because I'm not working on the show, but you know, I mean, Gilmore Girls, like it was letter perfect. You had to like, you know, really, and you know, I mean, you couldn't deviate off the script at all. And you have performances in there, you know, specifically, I would say Lauren's performance, where, you know, not to say that like Lauren is Lorelai in real life, but like, you know, the performance that she's giving, you know, feels a lot like, you know, a natural sort of, it feels a lot like you're seeing Lauren a bit, you know, and yet there's no paraphrasing in there. There's no like improvisation, which you see in a lot of comedy now. There's a lot of like, you know, actors kind of playing themselves, and they also are sort of going off script a bit. But there wasn't any of that, which I think makes it an extraordinary performance, right? Like the ability to be utterly natural and bring, you know, a lot of who you are in real life to a role that was written by somebody else and lines that were completely written by somebody else. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, I mean, you know, that's three series away from Gilmore Girls. There are two other series that Amy wrote in between, Jezebel James and then Bunheads, and now this. I don't know for sure, but I could see them letting some of the character or some of the actors be a little bit more improvisational. I don't know why. I just have this gut tells me that like there might be a little bit more of it in the show, in this particular show, than was even in Gilmore Girls. Maybe some stuff that Susie does here and there, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, this is likely, you know, the actors are really sticking to the script. It's also a period piece, so you know, it's like you can't really expect actors to be able to improvise a lot of the little idiosyncrasies and like the things that make it specifically period that a writer needs to kind of make sure is in the dialogue, you know, the language, expressions, slang. An actor might not know what those are, whereas a writer who spent time researching it and whatnot can make sure that that's there and the script ready for them. So yeah,
I hope
mean,
Susie falling off the chair was improv.
like that was like one of them. It was kind of just like, oh my gosh, I hope that stuff like that was improvised, you know, like, and I just feel like, you know, they've matured as writers, and I could see them, being a little open to, especially now in this day and age, it's just like there's so much more of it, and actors really want to be able to do more of that kind of stuff. I could see them being a little more open to it than they were in Gilmore Girls, but I can't say. But it's certainly. Sorry.
No, so I gotta believe they were able to trust this cast. I mean, and I have no problem at all with Bryce. She's doing a great job, and I could put Tony Shalhoub in the same thing. He's not Jewish either. Glad he's working. Love him. I just coming through that door because I'm black. I'm coming through that door. And, I do look at representation. And I don't even have a logical ending for the thing. It is a topic. And I swing back and forth too. John, you were expressing it very well. Yeah, I swing back and forth too. I'm not doctrinaire about the thing. But thanks for playing with it. Appreciate it.
The beginning, in Gilmore Girls, Luke's character was actually supposed to have been a female. We all know this, correct?
Yeah, Luke the character that Scott Patterson ended up playing was originally, I believe, was originally conceived to be a woman, and I don't know exactly the specifics on when that was changed or how that was changed, but I mean, he is another character that, like, I mean, he brings a lot of himself to that character, and also I would say that Brosnan also brings a lot of herself to this character. I don't want to make it sound like she's not being. I mean, of course, every actor has to draw on their own experiences and their own emotions, but she's certainly erring more on the side as an actor of a character actor transforming, like
I feel like there's a parallel between the character that's Luke and the character that is Susie. They're not quite where Midge and Lorelai are, like as far as like he kind of dresses himself down. Susie dresses herself down. She doesn't really resemble the female of that era. And Luke kind of like just kind of, he's scruffy. He's down, I call him down to earth, I mean, not so much dressy up, and I see like, I don't know, I see this parallel between the two characters, even though one is female and one is male. I see a little bit of Luke and Susie.
Well,
Are you saying Susie is Midge's Luke?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty. I think that's pretty safe to
I
say.
think
that, like,
that's a big discussion we had in season 1. I can't remember if it was over Clubhouse or over Discord. It could have been a mix of both. I think it was myself, Diana, John, and maybe a few others chimed in on this topic of, well, if Susie were a man, wouldn't she be Midge's Luke? Would we not be looking at them and thinking,
yeah, we would be
oh
shipping
my
them.
God.
We would be shipping
Yeah,
them
we
already.
can't
Like,
wait for
there's
them
no
to get
question
together.
about it. We'd be shipping them
Absolutely.
already.
I still am.
Oh, same
Yeah,
here.
I mean,
same here.
Yeah. I mean, the reason why I am not yet shipping them is because I know that Midge that her heart is still firmly somewhere else, and so I can't really. It's hard for me to ship two characters if I know that, like, one of the characters not really into it. Like, I can definitely put my mind into Susie's head and kind of, be interested in the idea that Susie has some feelings for Midge, but I haven't gotten anything to suggest yet that Midge could potentially be interested in Susie.
Do you still?
I mean,
think-
I never
Oh,
looked
sorry,
at
go
I
on.
never looked at it that way, but I looked at it as though, I mean, it like in the whole friendship way that Luke was Lorelai's leaning post from like day one, you know, and Susie is kind of like that for Midge, you know, even just in friendship, you know. So it's like I just continually see the in the awkwardness that is Susie, the awkwardness that was Luke. A lot of times the begruntled human that they both are, you know,
But
and it's
But do you think that, because I definitely think that, like as an archetype, they're very much the same.
yeah,
And it feels very much like if the Luke character had been a female character, that's probably the female character they were kind of imagining, something similar to Susie.
yeah.
But they did sort of write the Luke character from day one, as being, at least I remember from the earliest episodes of the season, as also being potentially somebody who there was chemistry with, like that there was romantic chemistry between him and Lorelai, whereas I haven't really picked up on any of that in the writing for these two. And I mean, I would love to be able to. I think that would be absolutely super interesting. But I just haven't yet. And I know that Midge's heart is still it's still with Joel. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
don't
very
see anything
clear.
in the writing that suggests that at all, but I would just love the idea of that together.
Oh yeah, I would love it. I think it would be amazing.
I'm not shipping them because, well, for that reason, but also because I think what's really going on here with that Shauna's touching on, that Shauna's bringing up, is that, the characters are being written to lean on each other as like stark opposites that, we're supposed to sort of find, but like with Luke and Lorelai and with Susie Midge, I think as viewers, we're supposed to see them as unlikely friends, like unlikely pairings that can really truly help each other. And I think that's what the two relationships have in common is, and I like that they're not being there's nothing in the writing that they're being shipped or anything like that, because it's not about that kind of dynamic is really about them promoting, helping each other get to the next level professionally, and maybe as people and as friends, like as good friends to another person, right? Because we know that Susie doesn't really have any friends or family. She's looking for that on some level. She's going to find that in Midge through a professional relationship, which is really cool. And Midge is an island as well. Like she has Imogene, but like, she doesn't really have anyone that really truly understands her. And so I love their friendship because it's so unlikely. They meet in the most unlikely way. She's not supposed to be downtown. She's not supposed to be at the Gaslight. She's there because her husband is doing this underground thing. And, I just feel like that's what we're picking up on. Whereas it was the same with Luke and Lorelai. Their friendship for how many seasons was really about, he's this way, she's that way. Together, they bring something new to each other. And that's what is really rewarding about that relationship.
But also, but I will say, and I should also clarify, the idea that these two characters could potentially start to have feelings for one another, and that it could be in the writing. I mean, that would be very interesting if done well. I don't, if it wasn't natural, then it wouldn't make any sense. But you bring up an interesting point about like the idea that these two characters are sort of there to help each other. But with Luke and Lorelai, that help almost from the beginning seems to be about love. It seems to be about these two finding a romantic soulmate. Like, that's sort of the impression that I get from their relationship early on. And I think that's the reason why, from pretty much the first season, you begin to kind of wonder if they're going to get together, hoping that they will get together, even though for many seasons they are like completely platonic, like there's no like hints that they're interested in each other, or maybe there are hints that there are, but it's not blatant. And so that sort of suggests that like the help that you're saying that they need, that they lean on each other, that in Gilmore Girls, it's something that is more about a relationship that they're looking for, a person that they can be with for the rest of their life in that way, and that will help them
I
feel
agree.
whole.
I totally
And in here, the help doesn't seem to be like they don't seem to be leaning on each other for that particular kind of help.
No,
they're going through.
Yeah, they're leaning on each other for something else. Yeah,
They're going through an experience together, and so I have this really weird view of love and friendship, and just stick with me for a minute. You can absolutely be insane about your best friend. You can absolutely be in love with your best friend. You can say, I want to plan a future with my best friend. 30 years from now, I want us to be sitting on a porch in rocking chairs, or 20 years from now, I want us to be raising, maybe we're married to other people, but we're best friends. And, I don't think it always has to be romantic in order to feel love for somebody, and in order to want to continue a lifespan together. It doesn't have to be about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you're describing like from like How I Met Your Mother. Have you seen that? You've seen that show, right?
Yeah.
Like when they're describing like their front porch couple, like they're all obviously looking for love and everything, but they're describing the people they want to sit on that front porch with forever and raise their kids with. Their community, their actual like family they've chosen is what I think you're.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, because I just feel like you don't have to. It doesn't have to be, about that. It just has to be the people that you love and the people that you want to have around you. And I think that maybe possibly Midge and Susie are going to be those people that are going to be there for each other in the future, and it may be odd, but my brain may be odd, but I don't know.
Well, I think for Midge and Susie, that their friendship is a byproduct of their professional understanding of one another. Like they're getting something else more meaningful, to them personally because of the professional aspect. Whereas like Luke and Lorelai, the byproduct of their friendship is romantic love. So I feel like that's like the dynamic is similar in that, the two people are coming together for like, because they're there's something to gain from that other person, right? Like there's an opposite there. There's like that person's interesting. They don't think like me, like this could really work. And I think for Midge and Susie, that's what it is that they're coming together from like, they both need something from the other, and their friendship and their love for one another is coming like from that initial relationship, which I think is really cool.
Well, and it's portrayed in this episode with Midge helping Susie hide from the gangsters. I mean, like, she's genuinely worried about her, so she has her come stay at her parents' house while they're in France, so that the gangsters can't find her. So, I mean, that's just like, she just loves Susie in that way. I don't know if she knows she loves Susie, but she obviously does, because why would she risk hiding her from gangsters at her parents' house?
Yeah.
Have we like, are the gangsters Harry Drake's guys?
We don't really know yet.
Yeah.
We don't really know, but
It
it's
was the first scene. They said it.
they said it again in the first scene.
I
Yeah.
think they're assuming that. I think that Midge and Susie are assuming
Okay,
that they're his guy.
I hope that that's what but the thing is that it was weird. The reason why that would be weird if they're assuming it is that at the very end of the last episode, those guys were like, hey, look, Susie, this is not going to go away. You know, you're going to need to deal with this. And Susie was kind of like, yeah, like she kind of like nodded. You know, if she didn't know what this was about, she'd been like, okay, but can you just give me a hint on who exactly? You know, she didn't. And it seems to suggest that like during the hanging out session that they did, she got that information, but we didn't get it. So she found out who it was and now understands exactly what's going on, but we don't yet. We're still waiting for that information. But then, this episode starts with them saying that, which now seems to suggest, well, then that is the information, that it's just his goons, which I have to be honest, I would find very weird, but I guess I'd go with it.
Can I switch gears for a second? Because I have a question. Are we done?
Of course.
Do you want to talk about this
No,
more?
no, of course. Go ahead.
In the show, I mentioned I wanted to go back to the scene where Joel takes Midge to the apartment, and he's like, he's talking to her about getting her the apartment, and he can take care of her and all that stuff. Was that common back then for the ex-husband to get the ex-wife an apartment and tell her, like, you don't have to work, I'll take care of you? Because what happens if he meets someone else and he gets married? Does he just cut off that money for her? Or what happens when she meets someone? Like, how would that even work with him, like, paying for her apartment and everything? Was that a thing back then, or is he just feeling guilty? And
yeah, I think that it's probably a mix. I think that back then there's no question that like the role of the husband, even or the role of the father of her children, that there's still you still get that to a degree if the husband has a lot of money, you'll still see that in at least in drama, where the husband is sort of supporting, at least for the sake of the kids. But it was a lot more prevalent in at that time. But I also think that it's a mix of that and a mix of like just Joel being kind of unrealistic. I think he's being romantic about their relationship. I think that Joel thinks that I think that there's a part of Joel that believes that maybe that I guess what it is, I don't think that Joel's thinking that far ahead.
Right,
I don't
right.
think he's thinking that far ahead. You're absolutely right. What happens when he does? And then when that happens, then, problems maybe, or maybe not. Maybe he's just like, that's something that I have to do, but for how long? Until the kids are off to college and adults? Does he keep Midge in her apartment even as an old lady and he's not with her anymore?
Yeah, or like
so
remarried, or he did, like, it just,
yeah,
the
exactly.
logistics
So
of
it's like to me, it's sort of like a mix of like this trope of like the husband always takes care of the wife, mixed with Joel just not really thinking as far ahead as you are.
Well, they hadn't signed any sort of divorce papers yet either, so I'm not sure what divorce hearings, but they would probably have to, be ruled by a judge, and they probably, have certain things that they would have had to pay, because I'm not sure that child support was a thing back in the 50s and 60s.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it was.
They're
Wasn't
not done,
as-
and romantically, they're not done with each other yet.
Right,
and,
right.
And no one's leaving. Joel's not going away.
Yeah.
So the guy that he's been, everybody knows he's still in the arena. You know, Joel's on a restitution tour right now
Totally.
with his own family as well as with her.
This is one of the things that I love about the series. To be honest, I mean, like I really, for the first episode, I thought that the Joel character was just like, you know, he'd be gone and that was it. Like I'm, you know, this episode especially highlights how this story is very largely about him. And I think it's really fascinating, and he's not going to go away. And there is still stuff that these two have to work out. And so it's true, Shelley, there would be some like legal stuff that would actually, you know, should actually, you know, work some of this out. But that just highlights why this moment is really more about like just some romantic ideal that Joel has than anything in reality.
Joel's
you know?
just making moves because he quit his job. He's taking over the factory. He's trying to fix the problems. You know, he's coming to terms with what he did.
Yeah.
And what that means. And he's just literally all around just trying to fix his life. And like one of the fixes is to take care of Midge. You know, he did a bad thing. He also knows that he can't be with her. He said so, which is a bummer, but like, you know, because it's a bummer when anyone says to you, you're too successful, I can't be with you, you know, like,
Right.
but like, it's just him really trying to check off all the boxes of like, okay, you know what? I really stepped in it. I really messed things up. This is the reality. He's come to terms with the reality of the situation. And now he's just trying to like, all of these areas, let's start fixing them, you know?
I really, after the finale of the last, you know, season, I was really like, yes, Fivo is gone. But seeing more of him this episode, I'm like, okay, I guess he's going to stick around a lot. So I don't know if I should be worried that they're maybe going to get, you know, reconciled later on, and he's going to deal with his insecurity.
Well, I don't know if you were here last time. I've said it at least a couple of times. I don't know if you were at those. I think
I've never been. This is my first one, John.
Really?
Yeah, I just.
Oh, I thought you were with us I mean, you were with us enough that last season we made the bet. We didn't make the bet. Did we make the bet in another show?
No, that was at a different event. That was at a different event. Yeah.
Okay, so my theory is that I think that they end. I don't think that they end. Oh wait, no. I actually think that there is a possibility that they end up back together again.
No.
But in a new. I know. He's like, please no. I think that there's a good argument that they end up back together again, but both very different people, and the relationship completely different, and that the relationship that they end up in just absolutely shatters all of these, like, you know, 50s 60s stereotypes of that type of a relationship and a marriage, and that what we're seeing now is, you know, the fight against wanting to be together but needing it to be in those 50s terms, and how that doesn't work, and all of the problems that it's causing, and that in the end they get back together, but like on a completely, like, just in a completely different place. I mean, I think one possibility. I mean, I know for those of you who can't take the idea that Joel would ever be given a second chance after what he did, I get how that might not be satisfying, but I think that you could write the series, if done well, you could get those two back together. I do think it's interesting that the name of the series is The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I know that that's her kind of comedy name, and she's sort of, you know, specifically
commenting in her comedy is commenting on that, like, 50s, social expectation of marriage. But I also think that there could be a clue in there, which is that she's never going to not be Mrs. Maisel, and that she will.
I definitely, agree. Based on this episode alone, I would agree with you, because he has so much screen time and he's trying to like help his dad's business and, be supportive of her. Even if they're not together, he's still trying to be supportive because he knows he can't handle that right now. But based on his screen time right now, I would definitely support that.
This show is about, like, and I, when I did my event about like the cultural context, this show is about a particular moment in time where we were reevaluating everything that we do and why we do it. So, the fact that Midge is a female who wants to be a comic, that's a glass door she's trying to shatter. That is, like, she is trying to step into a role that wasn't meant for her, that, like, I mean, the culture of the time is that women don't work, women don't, women aren't comics, like, all these different things. Like, she's really trying to upend a cultural sort of like societal fact, right? And it's the same with their marriage. They got together. We see all of those scenes. They got together, and they were the couple that didn't play by the rules, like they had sex in a park, up against a tree. They did all these things that you're not supposed to do. And they found each other because they were both kind of irreverent, and that's why they're together. And so when they get married, the switch is flipped, that now that they're married, they all of a sudden settle into this very traditional marriage setup that she does reluctant, like she does because she expects to do it, like, oh, well, now that I'm married, I have to put my makeup on before my husband gets up. Like, that's where Midge is coming from, where I have a lot of sympathy for Joel, because it's not exactly what he signed up for. He signed up for a marriage to the woman that excited him, that made, that was so, she wasn't like other girls. She wasn't like all the other women he could have dated and married and been, like, had a perfectly, regular life with, but he married Midge. So, I think that we have to dig into the reason why he cheated on her, because I don't think it's just it's never a black and white thing when someone cheats on someone. Like, there's absolutely layers and layers of reasons why. Part of it, I think, is he's suffering a little bit of self-hatred. He's never been, we see with his parents, he's never been made to stand on his own 2 feet, as Joel Maisel. Like, he's never the best kid. His father made up a story about, like, a cousin of theirs to, like, make him seem more important, he was just never taught to truly love himself and all of the things that he brings to this life. He doesn't even know what his job is, and so that's why I love that he quits the job, because it's like, yeah, of course, quit the job that you don't even know what you're doing there. He's sort of stepping into his own, and I think cheating on Midge is the first step in that, where he's just like, wait a minute, now I'm making a choice that makes absolutely no sense because I have a lot to deal with. So I think the whole show really is like trying to break down these societal structures that, that are ultimately not serving our characters. We're seeing the same thing with Ruben 8, that those trappings of the life that they're quote unquote supposed to live, it's not serving them. And so, so of course she takes off and, and finds herself in a completely different place where she, like, why is she seeing a fortune teller? I mean, that doesn't even make any sense, like yeah. All these characters are doing things that are stepping outside that societal expectation. And, I think that's what I keep coming back to in terms of loving the show, is that, they're showing us a particular moment in American history where a lot of people were coming to terms with these facts that, like, hey, wait a minute, this might not work. Like, we thought we wanted a perfect, like post-war America. We thought we wanted, a family, two kids, a house, and a dog, like that, like it seems really perfect. But maybe those things don't really fulfill us, and maybe we're just, stepping into those roles that are created for us because we're not at war. Thank God, right? So I kind of feel like we're in a place in this show where the writers are trying to tell a story about breaking those expectations because they don't serve the people anymore.
We lost Lee. Lee was like, I'm out. I agree. I also think that that would be a very interesting approach to like that, and saying like, what would it look like if you tore all of that down, but throw it all away, right? Like, is it possible to completely, completely live your life in, opposed to all of these societal, constructs of that time, while also still staying in love with the person that you're with? Is it possible? Is it possible even when that you're with and you are so trapped by all that society? If that's the case, then it's very possible what we're here is a journey to figure out how these two can be together while also not subscribing to that. We also talked a little bit earlier about how Amy does have a history of writing full circle, right? Like coming back to sort of the beginning of it all. And there's that really interesting opening scene in the series where she's giving a stand-up routine essentially at her own wedding. And Joel is sitting back as an audience member, essentially, listening and laughing and loving it, right? We can't imagine him doing that now, right? He like, the whole idea of listening to her do stand-up is like cringeworthy for him because, it comments on him. It's this dream that he has, right? But at one time, he was so in love with her and so in love with that part of her that he was sitting back just listening and laughing. And I predict that at some point late in the series, we will see Joel once again sitting back at a club, listening to his wife, maybe even making fun of him, roasting him, and he's totally loving it and laughing, which would be a huge journey for the character.
I agree.
And it would.
I agree.
And it would show that he was able to break free of all of this societal how I'm supposed to be, which we're seeing in some of these kind of silly gestures, like I'm going to buy you this apartment and take care of you for the rest of your life. Well, which I just think that's part of this, like of his journey. I think it's an example of one of the stumbling points early on in his journey.
I agree, and I think though, what's interesting that he's laughing at her jokes at the wedding is that the wedding is the beginning of the end for their relationship as it stands. Like the wedding is what changes them, because before that he found her so amusing. He found her so charming in like not a making fun of her type of way. Like, he thought she was the coolest girl at the party. Like he absolutely, you can see in that wedding scene that he's like, she's the coolest girl at the party and I get to be with her. And it's the marriage, it's the 4 years that they're married together that changes that relationship. And so, I feel like breaking their relationship, breaking their marriage is like almost what needs to happen for them to get back to that, that full circle moment of like, I mean, I love the image of like him, like watching her do stand up, roasting him, but like that is what he's watching in the beginning, the thing that changes is they get married, you know, like that the marriage breaks that dynamic for them. So they need to find their way back to it if they're going to find their way back to each other.
Totally. I'm gonna end the room and head out. But this was really great. Really awesome discussion. I can't wait to see where it goes next, especially being that we're back in New York. And I will see hopefully most of you back on Tuesday for the next episode of the show.